Hi, I'm Mark Damon. Welcome back to Fresh Food Therapy. Today, we're going to show you how to make dinner for 10 for a summer meal for $35 or less. Are you ready? For the menu today, we have a beautiful, zesty apricot glazed chicken. We have macaroni and zucchini made with a little bit of a tomato sauce, and then we have a fresh garden salad. It'll only take a few minutes to prepare all of this, and then you're gonna have a phenomenal, refreshing summer meal. Okay, to make the apricot glazed chicken, all you really need is one package of Lipton's onion soup mix, a little bit of apricot preserves. This time we're actually trying apricot pineapple, just because I wanted to see if it would change or make the flavor a little bit different, and some Catalina or some French dressing. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the onion mix and put it in the container, into a medium-sized mixing bowl. You're going to take the can of, or the container of apricot glaze, and you're gonna put in about half the volume. And then we're going to literally just put about a matching amount of the French dressing. It only takes about a minute or two to mix all of these ingredients together, and then you're ready to go. Once you have the glaze complete, what we're going to do is we're gonna pan the pan to make it easier for cleaning later on. And we're gonna open the chicken. They had a sale for 88 cents a pound. So I got bone-in, skin-on thighs. One of these baking dishes will make approximately 8 pieces. So if you're serving 10, you may have to use another container to finish. But what we're gonna do is we're going to very liberally mix or pour the sauce over the top of the chicken, and then we're gonna make sure that it's coated properly. Now, once you've spread it over one side, it's kind of important that you take the time and you just mix it and make sure that all sides are coated. It's gonna get a little messy, but don't worry, we can wash our hands right afterwards. And the chicken is now coated appropriately with the apricot glaze. If you like it very, very saucy, you can add more, but the sauce will be perfect if it's just coating. And then we're ready to put it into the oven. We're gonna put the chicken into the oven, preheated to 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. It'll cook all the way through, and it'll start to glaze the outside of the chicken. To make macaroni and zucchini, it's very, very simple. Even if you have a little bit of a phobia with cooking, or you're not really sure of your own skills, you're gonna be able to make this dish and it's gonna come out fantastic. We have onions, we have fresh zucchini, and we have mushrooms. What we're gonna do is we're gonna prep the onions using the Vidalia Chop Wizard so that the pieces are even and consistent. We're gonna saute up the onions. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna prep the zucchini while the onions are sauteing. Once we cut the zucchini, we'll put them to the side and we'll prep the mushrooms. The pot will come together one step at a time, and it'll build so that you don't have to worry about other pots, you don't have to worry about other pans. It's gonna be very, very simple. You're gonna have an excellent time making this. So what we're gonna do is we've got about 3 medium to small onions. We're gonna cut the top, cut the bottom, peel the layers we're not gonna use. You wanna keep the top and the bottom as tight as possible so that you don't lose a lot of the onion. But don't feel bad peeling off what you think may be an extra layer or two. The most important thing is just to ensure that it's gonna be fresh and ready to be cut. If you find that onions irritate your eyes, you can rinse them under cold water so that they don't irritate. But I will be honest, after so many years in the military, I'm kind of used to CS gas, so this is not so bad. What we're gonna do is we're gonna just slice them about 1/4 inch because that's about the size that's perfect for the Vidalia Chop Wizard. And then what we do is we take the Vidalia Chop Wizard and you can do 1 layer at a time, or you can do 2, or if you feel very, very comfortable, you can do up to 3. I'm usually comfortable with 2. There's a little mention on the side of how much you're chopping. In this case, we're going to use all of them, but what you can see is that 1½ onions makes about 2 cups, which is good for most sauté dishes. So now that we have the onions prepped, what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of oil to the pan, just enough to basically coat the pan, maybe about 2-3 ounces. I can hear from the 1 piece of onion that's in the pot that the oil is starting to get hot. And we're going to just make sure that the onions are coated all the way around. So now what we're going to do is we're going to prep the zucchini for the dish. It's very, very quick. Once again, all we're going to do is trim the top and the bottom of each zucchini, and zucchini will cook down a little bit as it lets off moisture. So it is okay to use a little bit more zucchini than you think you need because it will cook down and create moisture for the dish. And once they're cut into halves, we're going to cut them into half moons. And the way that you do that is merely taking them and cutting them at about 1/3 inch to 1/4 inch. And remember, it's all right to go slow because slow is smooth, smooth is fast. As you get more comfortable, you'll be able to chop faster. But because the dish is relatively quick and comes together quickly, you don't really have to worry about how quickly you have to rush. And we have about 4 or 5 minutes easily before the onions are going to be caramelized to the point where we can add the zucchini. I do the 2 halves of the zucchini at the same time, but you don't have to do that if you don't feel comfortable. You can do 1 at a time just like this. And don't feel bad if, as you're chopping, some of them get chopped a second time or cut into smaller pieces, because realistically they're going to melt and become part of the dish. And if you have a few odds and ends that aren't perfect, no biggie. The onions are still sauteing, they're just becoming soft. It's going to be about another 4 or 5 minutes before they actually start to brown a little bit. That's when the flavor and the sweetness of the onions starts coming out, and that's when we'll add the zucchini. But right now, we're gonna put the zucchini to the side, and we're gonna prep the mushrooms. We have beautiful white button mushrooms, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna trim the stems, and then we're gonna slice them up. Mushrooms will soften and shrink down, so we have to make sure that we're cutting them big enough that they don't disappear, but not so big that they're untowardly. So if you cut them in half and lay them flat on the board, we'll be ready to prep them in just a moment. Now that they're all halved and comfortably sitting on the board, what we're going to do is just very carefully cut them into pieces. And it goes pretty quick. When you're comfortable with it, you'll be able to whip through slicing mushrooms in seconds. But like I said, it's all about comfort and it's all about safety. So if you're not familiar and you're not comfortable yet, take your time and slice them nice and slow. And there you have it, all of the mushrooms prepped and ready to be added. The mushrooms will be added last to the vegetables because you want them to keep their form as much as possible. And the longer you cook mushrooms, the more likely they are to melt or fall apart. The onions are starting to show signs of browning. They're starting to get a little brown around the edges. That's the perfect time to add the zucchini. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it away from the heat just to make it safer. And I'm gonna add the zucchini to the pot. We're going to turn it to make sure that the onions and the oil coat all of the zucchini nice and easy. And we're gonna put it back on the heat. And we're gonna let it cook down to the point where the zucchini actually start melting the seeds out of the center and turning into a half moon from the present quarter moon from the present half moon shape that they're in. At this point in time, you can put the cover on and allow the steam to help cook the zucchini faster. But before we do that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some of the Italian spices from McCormick's, and we're gonna sprinkle to give a little bit of herbal flavor and aroma to the dish. Now that we have the Italian seasoning, you can lay it on relatively generously. It's a blend of marjoram, oregano, basil, sage, thyme, and it really gives a beautiful flavor to the zucchini dish. Now, it's probably gonna take you about 10 to 20 minutes to cook the zucchini down, and you're gonna have to turn it every few minutes to allow them to cook evenly. But once it's cooked down to the point where the seeds are starting to melt out of the center, at this point in time, what we're going to do is we're going to add the mushrooms to the mix, stir it up, let them cook down for just a minute or two, and then we're gonna add the red sauce. We're now going to add a little bit of over-the-counter red sauce. I bought 2 containers, but we're actually probably gonna only need 1. But the way that I measure is according to the color and the amount of sauce added. So once we add 1, we're gonna add a little bit of water to it to get all the sauce out of the jar, and then we're gonna mix it. If we need to add a little bit more, we have it, but if we don't and it's perfect, we've got another jar for another occasion. Well, it turns out that 1 container of red sauce is perfect for this size batch. Now that the red sauce is mixed in, we're going to let it stew for about 15 minutes, and it'll soften up, the flavors will meld, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another jar worth of water, bring it to a rapid boil, and add the pasta. So now that it's sauteed for about, I wanna say 10 to 15 minutes, the zucchini are soft and the seeds are melting out. The red sauce is blended in well, the flavors are all melding. At this point in time, what we're gonna do is we're going to add water to the mix. What I did was I just filled the jar 100% to the top. And what we're doing is we're trying to add to the dish just enough water for the pasta to absorb to cook all the way. You don't want the pasta to be watery, you don't want it to be loose, you want it to be rich. So we're putting a pound of rotel, which is the corkscrew pasta, into that once it comes to a rapid boil, and that should be just enough water for the pasta to absorb and get to the right level of doneness. Now that the water is coming to a boil and the pot is hot, we're gonna add the pasta to the pot. We're using rotelli, which is a corkscrew pasta, not only because of the volume that it provides, but also because the texture and the shape is fun for this dish. It holds the vegetables very, very well, and the pasta stays firm. Pasta is just resting, it's almost done. The chicken is just about perfect. And now all we're gonna do is throw together a salad really quick for you and your guests. Now, to be completely honest, if you are making this dish on a smaller scale for less than 10 people, just know that salad has a tendency to be the last thing that people put on their plate, and they generally have a smaller portion. So a whole head of iceberg lettuce will feed a group of 10. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna prep it, but I'm only gonna make half because we don't have 10 people dining and I don't wanna waste. So grab your iceberg lettuce, and then there's 2 ways of doing this. One is you can slice it out, or it's summer and you wanna work out a little bit of frustration. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slam it down on the table real quick, and it's going to push the core in so that it comes right out. And there you have it. The core comes out, and now you can prep the whole rest of the lettuce. And don't you feel better after doing that? Because there's only a few of us that are gonna be eating after this episode, I'm actually only gonna do a quarter of a head of iceberg. So we're gonna cut and then shred. And that should be enough for 3 to 4 people. We have a cucumber and And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna clean off the skin. It tends to be waxy. Some people really enjoy it. Depending on the cuisine that you're having, you can leave it on if you'd like. But because it's me and my friends that are gonna be eating this in just a little bit, what I'm gonna do is take the skin off. We're cutting it into fourths. We're gonna take out the seeds and we're just gonna cut it into chunks that are easy to pick up with a fork. For the tomato, we're literally gonna just cut out that little piece of the stem. And then, as I've told you in the past, I really like pieces of tomato I can see. So I'm gonna slice it into pieces that are big enough to find. And then a little bit of carrot just for color and for texture, and a little bit of surprise sweetness. Now we have the chicken done, the pasta done, and the salad prepped, and we're gonna plate just so that you can see how beautiful this meal is. We're gonna put the chicken down first. Then we're gonna put some pasta. And then finish with a little bit of salad just for color and for roughage so that they know that you've been thinking about their health the entire time. You can use any dressing you like. We're going to use a little bit of the Catalina, which is the sauce that was used to make the chicken, thus making the salad actually pair very well with the dish. Now, the goal of this entire evolution was to have a summer meal that really satisfies and is only about $3.50 per person. We have enough food for 10 people, but what we actually used with all the ingredients that we used was actually about $24 to $25 worth. So we have about $10 to play with. So you can go out and get yourself a nice bottle of wine if you'd like to go with this. What I would suggest pairing with a dish like this is something with a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of acid to cut through the pasta and the chicken. We have in the refrigerator a nice bottle of Riesling that you can pair with it, and I'll show you the bottle in just a moment. We've completed the meals. We have plenty to serve 10. And what we're going to do is we're going to pair it now with the Chateau Saint-Michel dry Riesling, which is a lightly acidic, sweet wine that goes so well with chicken and with pasta when it's prepared in this way. The meal that you're looking at is about $3.50 per portion with the wine included because of the ingredients we didn't use and because of just the low cost. If you go to a restaurant, you're probably going to end up spending a significant amount more than the $3.50 per portion, and you're not going to have the joy of knowing that you made it yourself. I hope you've enjoyed this meal. I hope it's useful for you and your family, and we look forward to seeing you again on Fresh Food Therapy.